Hello and welcome to Spark Talk with Farookh Sensei. Today I'm very happy to have a friend of mine, and he is LeRoy Flemming from the United States. Flemming, welcome on board.
Thank you, Dr. Farookh. It's a pleasure to be with you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, I met LeRoy in the US in Florida while we were attending a training program with number one leadership and motivational guru in the world, Les Brown, and his team, which is called Maximum Achievement Team. And Les was with, LeRoy was with my team. We were in the same group, and I was watching him for 3 days. The way this gentleman was helping others, that's something which attracted me too much. So I thought, okay, let me bring LeRoy to this program and have an interview with him. LeRoy is a graduate from Alabama State University and he holds a bachelor's degree in management and business. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. So he has also written a lot of books. And the reason for writing this book, something happened in his life around about 16 years back. Which year was that, LeRoy?
It was January the 1st, 2000, sir.
Okay, great. So you're going to tell me more about what happened, though I know what happened, but I would like you to share that with the audience, what happened and how that changed your life.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say it's an honor to be with you. I sat at the table with you. You talked about legacy, and I still try to maintain that legacy word in my life. So to be on screen with you is a plus in terms of trying to keep that legacy alive.
Thank you.
The way I would start it off is I get to the end part to get to the beginning part. On December the 25th, I went to see my mother.
Okay.
And that same day, I got ready to come back to Orlando, Florida. And I said to my mom, I'm almost where I need to be. I just need you to hold on just a little bit longer. And she looked at me and she said, son, I may give out, but I would never give up. I kissed her on her forehead and told her I love her. And then I got back in my car and I drove to Montgomery, back to Orlando.
Okay.
When I got to Orlando, I went to work for a couple of days. And then my brother called me and said that our mom is in the hospital.
Okay.
And that was just a quick turnaround for me. Number one, I said, well, why would she be in the hospital? No need to worry. And then she called me and said that everything is okay. Long story short, January the 1st, my sister called me and our mother had passed away. And that threw my whole existence into a tailspin. What remained was, how could she be there for me on Christmas Day? And then her passing is on January the 1st. Now, I understood death, and I understand the suddenness of it too, but this was something that my heart just could not take. I don't understand how that could happen. And when my mom passed away, it sent me into the course that I had naturally set for myself. It caused me to veer off course in a sense of everything that I believed in terms of achieving a dream, attaching that dream to someone, and trying to proceed further had become chaotic. And it caused me to almost surrender the very existence of achieving a dream because she wasn't around. Sense at all.
Good. And I'm sorry to hear that. And was she the inspiring or the inspiration behind you to write all these books?
Well, Doc, what happened is once she passed away and I veered off course, I was trying to figure out how to get back on course or at least try to incorporate what had happened to me into the goal that I set. And most of the time, people who lose someone, this is what we're thinking internally, whatever dreams we have, whatever conflict we have with ourselves, we're hoping that we can resolve it and get back on course. So for a lot of your listeners who think about what their life truly means, I was in the same predicament as they are. And Doc, just put on a spiritual level, I thought that God had abandoned me, if that makes sense. And I couldn't understand why I would be put in a situation where I thought I was a pretty decent young man and I tried to keep my nose as clean as possible. Why would this happen? So one day I said out loud to God that if you don't help me with this, I don't want to make it.
Okay.
And as soon as I could say that, the universe told me to pick up a pen, and then that's the writing began. In the process of doing that, I was hoping that it would heal me and make me whole again and have it where I would be able to see myself getting back on track.
Great. So LeRoy, one of my questions would be that, was writing your passion? You used to write before that, or it was accidental after this very particular, very specific incident?
No, sir, I did not. I was never a writer, to be honest with you. I never wrote anything, even in college. It can be fun. I could write my essay papers and my thesis papers and get that done. But in terms of writing for a significance, no, I never considered myself a writer. The spiritual incident that happened was, I think that in some spiritual way, God was just trying to tell me, I'm going to help you with this because I see you're not doing well. And once that happened, then I began to see a spiritual and a chemical release of all the pain and frustration that I was having. Pretty much all my life, it went back. The writing started taking me back to when I was a child, and I could kind of envision things that happened to me. And it worked my way all the way back up until I started seeing things clearly as a young man and the man that I am now.
So if I put in this way, an analogy would be that it was bridging the gap between the loss, that the things that you lost, and you started making it up by writing books. Is it correct if I put it that way?
When you connect it like that, I would say yes, because I didn't understand in the gap why I had this problem, and two, how I was going to resolve it. And then when poetry came into my life, it began to bridge that gap. It began to give me pieces of myself and pieces of, like, anybody that I would say that has a life. When you start writing, you start taking out the toxic feelings that you have in yourself. And I started realizing that I'm purging all of the things that I held inside so that I could make myself whole once again. So it did bridge that gap for me. And I was writing at a blistering pace when I wrote the first 10. I was writing so fast and so much and so frequent that I thought that something had happened in my brain, that it was a certain alter. My brain was altered for a certain reason to get me through the pain that I was feeling.
Wow. Did you ever think that you're going to publish the book, or you just thought that I'm going to write and it's going to be there in my shelf? Did you have any sort of vision that it's going to be there in the market for people so that they can go to the book even after you have left, thinking about the legacy that we spoke about? Did you have that sort of vision in you?
No, sir. When I started writing, the initial intent was to take the feelings that I had with the loss, with the dreams, with the goals, and with the aspirations, to show my mom that I really wanted to become something worthy of being her son, and to be that person that would be a provider for her, to be that one that when she looked out, she could say, well, my son is doing well, I'm proud of him, and now he wants to return that. I never thought of publishing the work until some people started reading it and they started saying to me, I can identify with what you just wrote because I went through something similar. And Doc, when they said that, I was like, well, maybe it's something I should think about. But I didn't know how to find the people to do that for me, to point me in the right direction to get that situation done for me.
So the first book that you came up with is called The Time Enlightenment.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just take through that.
Time Enlightenment, the first series, is when I was writing at such a blistering pace, Doctor, I was under the impression that there was just going to be something to help me purge my own inner feelings. So the initial title for the book was 72 Poems from Within. But the publisher told me that was too long.
The title is too long, or is the content too long?
The title, my original title was 72 Poems from Within. She said, that's too long. That's going to be too many words for people to have, and you need to narrow it down. And I didn't think, Doc, when I was doing this now, I didn't think of how to get a title for the book. Okay. So here's what happened. One day I drove from Orlando to visit my family in Phoenix City, Alabama. And I would go and I would drive. I would leave here at night, like at 4 a.m. And by the time I would get to my brother's house, it'll be daylight. Okay. And this particular time when I got there, I only stayed like maybe half a day, and then I had to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But now here's what happened. When I got in the car at 4 a.m. there,
Mm-hmm.
and I was driving,
Mm-hmm.
something in my mind told me to pay attention to what was around me. And it was pitch dark. And there was only like, in the beginning, it was just me
Mm-hmm.
and then another car, like one car passing me.
Mm-hmm.
And then another hour passed, and it was me, and then it was two more cars.
Mm-hmm.
And then about an hour later, it was me, and then it was four more cars, and the sun was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm driving, something inside of me said, do you see what I see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I say, I see time.
Mm-hmm.
That no matter what you do, time progresses.
Absolutely.
And then I see light.
Yep.
I saw light. Then I saw more cars. I saw more clarity. And then that's when the title came to me. This should be the title of my book, Time Enlightenment, because time and light, they kind of travel together.
Absolutely.
And the statement that I was making to the world is that no matter what you do in life, time, light, and time enlightenment is a part of you going from darkness to clarity in your life. So that's how I came up with the title.
Wow, that's inspiring. And when you went back to the publishers and said, well, I'm going to change the title that you didn't like because it's too long, and this is my new title, what was the response? And how important is topic and how important is title when it comes to authoring a book?
When I went to my publisher with the first one, she said it was too long. Her name is Shelley Parrish. Mm-hmm. So when I went to her, she said that's too long. The audience may get lost in all of the wording and not be able to capture the topic or what your work meant. Mm-hmm. And when I went back to her with the Time Enlightenment, she was like, "That's it." Mm-hmm. She said that works perfectly with the work that you have written. Now, when she said that, I was still amazed that I came up with it on the way back, and to find out that she was feeling the same way about the title, let me know that I was on the right course. She said, "That's it. We can use that. And I'm going to put that on the title." And then she said, "What did it mean?" Now, luckily, I had already thought about what it meant when she asked me. I said that it means crystallized internal vagueness, in the sense of my mind and my life had been dark. And because of all the writing that I did, that darkness became crystallized so that now I can see more clearly what I need to do about my dreams and goals. So when you're labeling your book or you're looking at a topic for yourself, you have to think of something. I say, if you are comfortable with it, that's one thing. If you go to a publisher and they're not, and they're telling you to rework it, then you have to rework it because you need to make it make sense to the audience when they start reading it. And then it has to be clear enough so that when they see it, it has an interest and make them want to go in and see further. And when I did that, I found out once and for all that titles makes a difference.
Wow. Now, this puts me into questioning myself, because my next book is going to talk about 99 steps or 99 names or something. So I need to rethink whether should I go ahead with the 99. It's a long name, but I like to stick on to that. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an incident where I read somewhere about Jack Canfield. I hope you know who Jack Canfield is. When Jack Canfield came up with his book, The Chicken Soup, there were a lot of questions asking him, why soup? Why don't you change the word soup? Or why don't you change the title soup? And, exactly. And I remember he's speaking about some of the Indians asking him, why do you use the word chicken? Because we are vegetarians. Why didn't you use something else? So he said, no, this is my title, and I love my title. And I need to stick on to my title. Sometimes you might be having title which you are very much glued to, like the one that you had earlier.
Yes.
And you go to your publisher, and the publisher would say, this is not matching to the market that you're looking for. Maybe the audience could get lost. So sometimes you need to stick on to your inner self and say, no, this is a title and this is going to achieve what I want to achieve. But in your case, you took a very good decision, because it was like you were seeing while you were driving back home, you were seeing everything, the time and the light coming. And that's how you came up with this name. Now, you mentioned that this is a series of books. And then I know that there is another series also, which is called The Soul Splitting. So yes, what's the difference between the two series? Are they same, or you change the title, or they are entirely standalone series?
When I did the Time Enlightenment series, and on each cover, there are pictures on each cover. And each cover represent a version of the human being. And when the audience go out to purchase books, or they go out to a movie or they may go out into a conference, they want to look for what's in this for me.
Yep.
And when you title something or when you write something, you want to try to capture their interest, because if you can't make a person look at a book and say, I need to get that by the cover or by the title, then they may just pass you by. When I came up with Time Enlightenment, it was a rebirth for me.
Yep.
The very first cover that you see is the image of someone standing in water with the sunlight piercing their heart and with their arms stretched out, meaning that I was going through an awakening stage. By losing my mom, I had to recreate who I was. When you get to the second picture, when you get to the second volume, it's a contemplative situation. So it goes all the way through until you get to volume 5, where there's a spiritual being on a cross. And it just means that the stages from birth to death is something that we all can't avoid. And when I did that, it was still time as well. It was time and light still showing me to the end. Now, I had no idea, Doc, that this would be the case for Soul, for Time Enlightenment. And when I ended that series with that particular image on the cover, Soul Splitting became another part. Soul Splitting became a recreation or reconnecting of the spirit world with the physical world so that you could be made whole. So I went from resurrection to the passing, and then to me trying to reunite my inner being with my physical being to have a more meaningful and purposeful life. Only because I wanted my mom to understand what the whole intentions were when she was alive. By her not being here, I get to show that in a spiritual way on the cover of my books.
Wow. Now, you spoke about the image on the cover page. Now, you selected the image, or there was some professional touch, somebody who helped you in that? Now, the reason why I'm asking this question, because there could be a lot of others who are listening to you, to this interview. So what would be your suggestion when it comes to selecting that sort of images? Should you select it, or you have to hire a professional? What should be done for that?
That's a good question. When you think about what you're writing, and when you think about what you're doing, the first thing I would say to the person, because I'm a firm believer that you need to write your life anyway.
Yep.
When you write your life, you don't have to give it to the world. You can keep it for yourself, and you can pass it down to your family quiet. But Mr. Brown say that every human being has a book in them.
Yep.
And before I met him, I already knew that. But once he said that, that confirmed that for me. So when you're thinking about your life and you're thinking about your work, the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is craft your own image. Why? Because that is coming from you. That is going to have the meaning for you. And you want that to translate to the audience that you're going to serve. Mine is poetry. So my images is serving the internal well-being of the person. However, if you come and it's a business book, and then you got to find out the version for business for yourself, you still got to look internally, but you may go out and see a picture of a building that you may take a picture of and say, I like that image. So if you like that image, then you begin to craft that image toward the material that you have. But if you can create it from your mind and make it become part of what you're doing, you're also promoting business as well, because business is creativity. Business is entrepreneurship. So when you're finding that image, you want to find something that you say to the publisher or anybody, now I got to stick with this one. You can show me 10 more, but the first one that I have is what I like. But if they can come along, doctor, and show you something that would show you otherwise, then you will go with that. But sometimes you have to go with your gut. And with each one of my pictures, I went with my gut. Now,
since your book is more about poetry, is there that you could narrate few verses for us? Short verses.
Yeah, absolutely, Doc.
Please.
So when I got to do the very first writing, when I said to God, you got to help me with this, because if you don't help me, I don't think I'm going to make it. And as soon as I said that, something told me to sit down and write. When I sit down and write, the very first words that I wrote was, here we go. And when I wrote the words down, the pen just took over. So here's how the first stanza went. It went, here we go, right at the beginning, where all things seem to want to end. Here we go, never observing the universe. Here we go, never looking or listening to the sun, the rain, the clouds, and all things natural. Here we go, never questioning the things within, where all confusion starts and where things never end.
Wow.
That was the first stanza, Doc. And when I got done with the entire piece, I looked at it and said, where did that come from? Because that wasn't me. If that makes any sense. Sometimes you write, and the pen just take over, and all you doing, you just a conduit. You just writing what come to you. When I got done with that first peep dog, I sat back to myself and I said, wow, so this is how I'm going to be healed. And from there, I just started composing piece after piece. I would get up and write at 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. The spirit of the universe was just saying, I'm going to help you deal with this. And this is how.
Wow. Great, great. Now, when it comes to your book, is it only a book? This is one question I always like to ask authors. Is it just a book that I can pick up from the library? Or is it something like is it downloadable? It's like a PDF or Kindle. Is it physical book or is it a soft version?
Good question, Doc. I have soft copy, and I also have where it can be downloaded onto a Kindle or anything that people would want to find a way to kind of read it and see what the material is all about. And the reason I like giving soft covers to people in terms of how I create it, because I always want people to have a book in their hand so they can feel the material and see what it's like, so they can study the front and the back of the book and see the story that's portrayed, not only on the front, but the back. But if you download the Kindle, here's what I say to people, that when you read my work, you're reading a part of yourself, because a part of me is a part of you. And and since it's an internal development thing, we all develop internally. So when you read it, there's something in there that you will find very relevant to your life, very relevant to the situation that you may find yourself in. And if you haven't found yourself in it, then sooner or later you may. So this would be preparing you for the poetic flow of how life is.
Wow. I've noticed that you do a lot of training programs, seminars, masterminds, and lunch and learn events in the US. How do you take your book? Is it do you speak about your book, or it's something entirely different? The seminars that you conduct.
Another good question, Doc. What I try to do is I try to stay away from talking about my material so much. What I do is I go out and I try to perform a piece. Here's what the universe has taught me about that. I used to read from my book. Then I began to memorize from my books. And I thought that I was cheapening the audience. A lot of times when you do that, that's stuff that they can go and pick up. Now, I can go and do that. What I try to do now is I try to do organic pieces. In the sense of, if I have a title in my head, I try to give them something original and authentic so they can see that what they're getting is a part of the essential elements of life. Sometimes you can read a lot of things and that'll be good, but sometimes when you can feel something and you can just let that go, then that holds a lot more interest in terms of the originality of it and the creativity of it. And then I can say to them, if you want to learn more, then you can go and download my books or order them online, just so you can see how I got to be the person that I am now. Because before I was broken, there was nothing nobody could do. My family members, my girlfriends, anybody that I talked to, nobody could put me back together. No one could do anything for me. My brother at the time, he gave me all the space that I need, because he knew that since I didn't accomplish my goal, that I was going to be disturbed by that. And he was nice enough to give me all of that space. And the universe was kind enough to give me what I need to feel that space.
Wow. Now, you've been with Les Brown for quite some time. How did Les Brown and his team influence you in the person that you are today?
When my mom died, I stopped listening to Les Brown, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, all those people I just shut down. I stopped listening to music because all of it had that feel. It's like my mom is not here. It doesn't make any sense at all. Once I started writing, then I began to break away the bad parts of that. And I began to pick up more reading. I began to smile a little bit more. And I began to understand that no matter what we do in life, death is inevitable and it's pretty much a permanent goal. No matter what we do, that's where you're going. Once I got clear enough, and I have been writing now for like 17 years, going on 18, Les Brown was on YouTube, and then he came back into my life. And he came back at a time when I was hearing this message, and he was saying it was possible. And then since I was going back on course with my dream, then I found out that he had an institute. Now, to be honest with you, I didn't believe it was real at first. Because I was thinking Mr. Brown is such a dynamic personality in the world. He should already have these things. The world should already be in total admiration and honor of this man, and he should have everything that he wants. But it wasn't that way. It was real. And once I found out that it was real, it was a no-brainer for me. And once I actually went there to see the young man that I had read his first book, Live Your Dreams, in college, and when I went to Atlanta, I kind of forgot about a lot of things. And then when I got to Orlando, it came right back full circle for me. Then I knew that out of all the mentors out there in the world, that this was my dude, that Mr. Brown was the guy that I needed. And once I got there and I saw Ona, and Ona said that this is your safe space. And once I got there, I figured that now I can unleash whatever speaking abilities I have, whatever talent I may need to develop. It was perfect for me. And now that I've been there for my second one, going to my third one, I see that Mr. Brown is very serious about trying to make people live their dreams.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. The "it's possible" phrase impacts my life. And he says that if it's hard, do it hard. Am I still in folk? He said that if it's hard, you got to do it hard. And then the last one, he said you have something special. You have greatness within you.
Absolutely.
When I published all 10 of my books, I didn't think it was greatness. I just felt it was because my mom was gone. But at the same time, that's greatness as well. Because in order to uncover who you are, sometimes you have to go deep into the weeds, and hopefully you can come out okay. And that's what Mr. Brown means and what he has done for me.
Wow. Recently, I saw one of your images with John Fubu.
John.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. You got me with that one, John.
Yeah. I want to make you think.
Yeah, John.
The Shark Tank.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you got me, Daniel John. Yes, sir. You're right. Yes, sir.
I'm a great fan of his. I'll tell you the way that he presented, the way that he started his life, and today where is he? It was amazing to see your picture with such a great legend. I think now it's around about 6 billion or something. He was talking about the revenue for his entire career that the company has generated. Great achievement. So what was that in a very short line? What was that all about? I could see that you were holding the book.
He wrote his recent book called Rise and Grind. And when he wrote it, they said that he was coming to Orlando to do book signing. So instantly I went out and purchased the book. And I instantly started reading the book because I didn't even know he wrote a book prior to this. So when I got this one, I was like, wow, Rise and Grind. And I started reading it, and it has some very powerful information in there. But what got me was when you open up the book, he dedicates the first page to his family and his wife and kids. And on the very next page, he has a quote by the Dalai Lama. And this quote that I read by the Dalai Lama, it kind of shook me because it was so powerful. It was so simple. And I wondered why he put that in the book. So when I got ready to take my picture with him, I said, Mr. John, very quietly, I said, what made you put the Dalai Lama quote in there? He said, when I was young, he said, I was putting so much time in the grind that I didn't take care of myself. He said that now that I've become successful, now I'm learning to take better care of myself. And that's why I put that in there. He said, it's not original. I wish it was, but it's there for you to read. And I said, sir, that's the most powerful thing in the book. Because I was halfway through it then, but that one thing I carry with me every day, and that was a very powerful quote. It's a great book, by the way.
Good, great, excellent. Now, when it comes to your book, what's the number of pages? Because that's something which I'm very much careful about, because when you see a thick book, I might not buy it because I would feel that I won't finish it. And if you see on my rack, one of the best books that I liked, I'll tell you, that was, where is it? Yeah, this one. This is a book by Simon Sinek, and this is a very short book gifted to me by one of my friends. And I was traveling from an international trip, and I'll tell you, within an hour I finished the whole book. But there are other books which would lie there. I would just go through a few pages, and then it would be there in my bookshelf itself. What I believe is that the more books that you collect does not make you a scholar. Adding book does not make you a scholar, but you have to go through it. You have to apply the book. Now, coming to your book, how big is it? When I say, I'm not talking about thickness of the book, but how many pages or approximately how many words? And do you think that it can be applied, the book can be taken into life?
Well, that's number one is when I intentionally designed the 5 covers, I did it intentionally not to make them so extensive. So it goes from maybe 124 pages to the maximum of 155 in the volume. And volume 3 is probably my thickest one, which is like 155 pages. Everything else is between 120 and 130.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is when you write poetry, I don't feel a need to try to make the book so thick that you compile everything into one book, because people won't read them that way. But if you can break them down into what I call like small piecemeals, that when you read the first one, if it leads you to the second one, then you'll get another 120 pages. And then it's a feel-good read when you do it too. You don't feel like you're being cluttered with so much spiritualness or physicalness or mentalness. You get a fine line between that. So what my books do, they take you through the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. And then it tells you, like the Here We Go piece, at the very end, it just says that life, love, and misery all begins with me. Absolutely. And when I wrote that, when I wrote the very last line from the beginning to the end, when I saw that, I said to myself that anybody reads this piece will understand that we don't look at nature the way we should. We don't look at ourselves the way that we should, and we don't even question. And when you get to the end, you find out that all of that is because of you. And if you can correct that, then you can have a life that's like, here we go to a new beginning. Yeah. And that's what I tried to achieve in doing that. So they're not long. I think the pieces are pretty powerful. And I think that when you read them, they will impact your life, and you can apply them to life.
Very good. Now, before we wind up, what would you like to share to the audience?
Thank you, sir. Well, number one, Doc, I want to say it's been nice to be here with you. I remember sitting at the table with you. You were very quiet then until you revealed a wealth of information to me about your life. And when you revealed the word legacy, I thought about my mom then. I think about my mom now. First of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure.
And what I want to say to the world, and it's been said 1,000 times, but when you embody it, you understand it. You only have one life.
Yep.
Whatever came before this one, whatever will come after this one, we don't know anything about that.
True.
You're going to have trials and tribulations. Your life is going to fall apart. And if it doesn't, you'll be very fortunate. But if it should happen to fall apart and you get confused and there's nobody to help you, pick up a pen, get you a book, and just write what you feel.
Yep.
It don't matter, no matter how it comes out, just write what you feel. And when you write, you are taking that energy inside of you and you are making it real by putting it on the page. And if you put it on the page, I promise you, you're going to heal. Not right away, though. You just got to keep writing. Even if you're feeling good, write if you feel good as well. Don't always make it about pain. And don't always try to think that you got to go to the bottom of the well to change your life or to change the world. It could be simple writing as good morning, I feel good today.
Absolutely.
Whatever you do, spend your time working on yourself. Spend your time writing about yourself. Spend your time loving yourself, because nobody can love you but you. And when you can do that, you can give that to the world. And for 17 years, I had to bob and weave and make my way through life to just find out who I was, how to accomplish my dream. And your audience, they could do the same exact thing. And I wish everybody the ability to write about their world, because nobody knows their world better than them.
Thank you. Thank you very much, LeRoy. LeRoy, I'm going to share your email down below so that anybody who wants to contact you, learn from you, so that you can coach them, guide them, and take them to the next level. LeRoy, it was a pleasure and honor having you on board.
Sir, it is my honor to be talking to you, Doc. This is like a dream come true, man. We was at Les Brown one time at a table, and now you got me talking to you on an interview. That I'm honored, man. I thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
God bless you also, sir.